We've all got that little voice in our head, right? The one fed by movies and old campfire stories telling us exactly what to do in a crisis. But what if that voice is completely, dangerously wrong? Today, we're going to tear apart the most common survival myths, the ones that sound really smart but could actually get you killed. So let's start with Hollywood. Our action heroes have taught us a ton of things over the years, but when it comes to a real crisis, they are often the worst teachers you could possibly have. That dramatic, life-saving move you see on the big screen, yeah, a lot of the time it's the exact opposite of what you should do. No, seriously, think about it for a second. What's that one heroic scene that's burned into your memory? You've probably seen it a dozen times, and it's become this go-to image for what survival looks like. Well, chances are, it's one of the most dangerous myths out there. Oh yeah, you know the one I'm talking about, the classic cut and suck. Some rugged hero gets tagged by a snake, and their buddy immediately whips out a knife, slices open the wound, and sucks the venom right out. So dramatic, so heroic, and so wrong. It's actually incredibly dangerous. Let's break down why this fails so spectacularly. First off, snake venom hits your bloodstream almost instantly. I mean, it is fast. You physically cannot suck it out in time. Second, even if you tried, studies show you'd remove a tiny, medically useless amount of it anyway. And maybe worst of all, by cutting the wound, you're damaging nerves and tissue, and then you're introducing all the lovely bacteria from your mouth directly into the bite. So the bottom line is, you're not helping. You're making a really bad situation a whole lot worse. And look, it's not just stuff we learn from Hollywood. Some of the most dangerous myths are the ones we tell ourselves about facing Mother Nature. When it comes to things like heat, cold, and finding water, sometimes your gut instinct is your absolute worst enemy. We've all seen that cartoon, right? The big St. Bernard with a little barrel of brandy around its neck coming to the rescue. The idea is that a good swig of booze will warm you right up. And you know what? It does make you feel warmer. But that feeling is a deadly trick. Alcohol makes your blood vessels expand, rushing all that warm blood to the surface of your skin. So your skin feels toasty, but what's really happening is you're rapidly losing your core body heat to the cold air around you. It's a fast track to hypothermia. This one feels so logical, doesn't it? You're dying of thirst, you're surrounded by snow, and snow is just frozen water, so just eat it. But here's the problem. Your body has to burn a ton of precious energy, a ton of heat, just to melt that snow inside of you. You're basically trading a massive loss of body heat for a tiny bit of hydration. In a cold weather survival scenario, that is a terrible, terrible bargain. If you can, always melt it first. So your fingers are numb, they're frozen solid. Your first instinct is to rub them together, hard, to get the feeling back. Whatever you do, don't do this. See, when your tissue gets frostbitten, tiny, sharp little ice crystals form inside your cells. When you rub them, you're literally grinding those little shards of ice against each other, shredding your tissue from the inside out. It causes massive permanent damage. The right way is gentle, slow rewarming. Ah, yes, the old moss only grows on the north side of a tree trick. It's a charming piece of folklore, but as a navigation tool, it's completely useless. Look, moss doesn't have a compass. It just wants to be in a damp, shady spot. And depending on the forest, the slope of the hill, and the climate, that could be on any side of the tree or all of them. Trusting this myth is a fantastic way to get yourself lost walking in circles. Okay, let's paint a picture. It's a scary one. The air is thick with smoke. You can feel that intense heat on your skin, and you know you have to run. Right in front of you, there's a big hill. It looks like the fastest way up to higher, clearer ground. So, is that the right move? And here's the terrifying piece of physics you have to know. Fire moves much faster uphill. It's simple, really. Heat rises. So the fire is constantly preheating and drying out all the fuel, the grass, the brush, that's in its path above it. This lets it all ignite way faster. Running uphill might feel like you're escaping, but you could actually be running straight into the fire's express lane. All right, now we're getting into the really dramatic stuff. I mean, it's one thing to battle the cold or the heat, but it is another thing entirely when the elements, or the creatures living in them, start to fight back. This is where knowing the right move isn't just helpful, it's everything. Okay, so everyone has heard the advice, play dead if you see a bear. But that advice is dangerously simple. It might work for a grizzly bear that's being defensive, but for a black bear, which by the way, you're far more likely to run into, playing dead just tells it you're an easy meal. You have to fight back. Make yourself big, make noise. And whatever you do, do not climb a tree. Black bears are amazing climbers, and they will be up there with you before you even know what's happening.
We've all seen this one in the movies, right? One good punch to the nose and the shark just turns and swims away. But let's get real for a second. You're in the water, you're probably panicking, and you're trying to hit a small, constantly moving target that is located directly above a mouthful of razor blades. It's a really high-risk, low-reward move. Instead, if you absolutely have to, aim for the bigger, more sensitive targets, the eyes or the gills. It's more likely to work, and it keeps your hands away from its teeth.
This brings us to one of the most common dangers at the beach, the rip current. The moment you feel that pull, your panic brain screams at you to swim as hard as you can, straight back to the shore. But that's a battle you are guaranteed to lose. A rip current is like a powerful, invisible treadmill, and even an Olympic swimmer can't beat it. Fighting it just leads to one thing: exhaustion. But here's the good news. Escaping a rip current isn't about being strong, it's about being smart. The most important thing is don't fight it head on. Stay calm and just swim parallel to the beach. You see, most rip currents are actually pretty narrow. A lot of times in just a few strokes, you'll swim right out of its pole. Once you feel you're free, then you can turn and swim back to shore. This one piece of knowledge saves lives every single year. Okay, for our final section, and this one is so important. When someone is hurt, our first instinct is to help. But some of the oldest first aid rules we all think we know can actually cause way more harm than good. For some reason, there is this huge lingering fear around tourniquets. This idea that if you use one, you're basically guaranteeing an amputation. This is completely based on old, outdated information from wars long past. The truth is, for a severe bleed from an arm or a leg, a properly applied tourniquet is the #1 best tool to stop the bleeding and save a life. The choice isn't between a limb and no limb. The real choice is often between living and bleeding to death. Here's another really intense scenario. Your friend is freezing, they're exhausted, they're barely making sense, and all they're mumbling about is how they just want to close their eyes for a minute. It seems like the kind thing to do, to let them rest, but is it the right thing? No, absolutely not. That deep, overwhelming sleepiness isn't just normal exhaustion. It's a massive red flag. It's a sign their core body temperature has dropped so low that their body is literally beginning to shut down. If you let them fall asleep, they might never wake up. You have to keep them awake and conscious while you begin the very slow, very gentle process of rewarming them. So, we've busted myths about snake bites, bears, wildfires, first aid, a whole bunch of stuff. But the biggest takeaway from all of this isn't just another fact to add to your list. It's about how we approach the idea of survival itself. When you really boil it all down, a few key themes pop up again and again. First, what looks cool and heroic on a movie screen is often deadly in real life. Second, your gut instinct, that first panic-driven reaction, can lead you to do the exact wrong thing. And finally, just because everyone says something is true, just because it's common knowledge, that doesn't mean it's right. And this really gets to the heart of it. Survival is not a checklist of rules you memorize from a book full of myths. It's a dynamic, problem-solving challenge. It requires you to stop, observe what's really happening, understand the principles at play, and then make a calm, rational decision. In the end, the ultimate survival tool isn't a fancy knife or a fire starter. It's your brain. It's your ability to think clearly when you're under pressure and to question what you think you know. Because faulty, memorized rules will fail you when it matters most. A clear, analytical mind won't. So that really just leaves one last question for you. What piece of common knowledge will you choose to question next?